questions box, and we'll address them at the end of the webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and recording will be available afterwards. A little bit about me. As I mentioned, my name is Jason Agar, HR Manager with Rainbow Tree Company. I have provided my email address and phone number. I have 10 years of recruiting experience. I've worked at such places as Sleep Number, Delta, and Donaldson Company. I have an MA in Organizational Management with an emphasis in Human Resource Management. I was recently married in September and spent 12 years in the Army National Guard. Now, getting to the basics for recruiting. I like to state, approach recruiting and sourcing like you would dating. Think of that recruiting relationship as a long-term relationship that you have to approach the conversation in a softer way. Let that candidate know that you enjoy connecting with them, and then make sure that you're giving them a reason to be interested in you. Remember that a bad hire has a greater impact on your company's organization. Roughly 41% of companies surveyed say that a bad hire in the last year has cost them at least $25,000. 25% of companies surveyed say that a bad hire last year cost them roughly $50,000. So think of your recruiting and sourcing technique as that relationship and ensuring how you want to build that relationship with that person. Are you wanting to communicate with them on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis? How does that communication look like? Email, phone. That's how you have to establish that relationship. Understand your company's value proposition. Define the job, not the person. Sourcing the best candidates must start with a compelling vision of what the job entails. Have a strong basic pitch. Again, understand your company's value proposition. How are you finding talent? Job advertisements, employee referrals, career fairs. If you are unfamiliar with an applicant tracking system, or better known as ATS, think of the applicant tracking system as a warehouse for all of your positions that are either archived or currently active. Here are a couple of examples of a few ATS systems that are currently in use. iSIMS, which is a Minnesota-based company, and then Talea, which is a multinational company. You already have a great database full of passive candidates. Ignoring your own ATS really has been an epidemic in the recruiting field as a whole. Roughly 60% of recruiter submitted applicants were already in your company's ATS. So if you're out there sourcing candidates via LinkedIn, mining them on Dice, you would be able to more than likely stumble upon those same individuals in your company's ATS system. Another interesting way to connect with that passive candidate is blogging. I put a blog up there for TreeBuzz. Think of blogging as a way to engage around content, producing relevant content via blog presents you as an authority in your field for others to follow. Don't write about your company. Remember that blogging is a great way to build your brand reputation and recruit that passive candidate. I put up there Emerald Ash Borer hits Kansas City. Think of those little interesting ways that in the green industry, how we want to go about communicating or blogging, if you will, about certain aspects of what our company does. You can put that into play with recruiting and sourcing of talent. These are all effective ways to fill a position. Each one plays an integral role in your recruiting process. Now, we as green industry companies really love referrals, or companies in general love referrals. I know our sales pros that we have with Rainbow Tree Company love referrals. Think of referrals then as another great way to build your recruiting base, your bench, your active candidate profile as well. Be good to your employees and they'll spread the word. Treat employees as if you are recruiting them. Let the employees be brand advocates or brand ambassadors. Inquire about specific talents, not job seekers. So after hearing lots of advice on getting referrals from people you know, you have to realize that referral then really depends on how you approach that individual. So it's all about the content in your message. You might want to say, instead of who do you know that is looking for a position, state who do you know with a skill set XYZ to fill XYZ position. 91% of customers say they give referrals. Only 11% of salespeople ask referrals, because I think a lot of times we as either salespeople, I think of recruiting as more like sales in a whole, in general. We sometimes don't necessarily ask for referrals. If you have a conversation with a candidate that might not be interested, say it's an easy 10-second question. Do you know somebody that's currently looking? You might miss out on, or that person might not say anything, but if you continue to put that in your conversation toolbox, more than likely you'll be able to hit 1 out of 100 from that. And that 100 person, that 1 person out of 100 could be that diamond in the rough that you've been struggling to find for that position. Build relationships with the best people you know. When you meet someone and think, wow, I would like to hire this person, you have to put that individual in your pipeline. Make a note. You can start that list right away by asking yourself, who are the best people that you've ever worked with? Study and listen to the candidate's real motivators. Passive candidates are passive not because they love their jobs, but because they have a set of work-life balance that is comfortable and easy for them. The only way to discover those core motivating factors is to study the candidate's background and listen to them, instead of filling out your questions or filling out their answers for the questions that you're asking them. Why did they move from one job to another? As you see below on the right, candidate universe, 60 to 70% of active candidates are passive. Those are people who are presently not seeking a job. 20 to 30% are semi-active looking job seekers. Again, I would say they're more like passive. You have 5 to 10% who are actively seeking new jobs in the marketplace. Keep presenting opportunities and letting the response guide you. For example, we have a relatively new hire, PJ Zuba, who was with a tree industry competitor of ours, and we had an opening a while ago that was, and ultimately that position we were unable to really build up steam. We put that position on hold. I had an active candidate that I sourced off LinkedIn, PJ. We had a consulting arborist position that opened up, and he had those same skill sets that could be very beneficial in that position, and I repositioned and provided a great value proposition for this consulting arborist role. So that's what you can do with your candidate pool, your pipeline. It would be great if candidates knew exactly what they wanted when you interview them, but that's not always the case. Passive candidates typically have the ball in their court. They're not necessarily going to make that leap unless you compel them to do so. Again, it's going back to your company's value proposition and how you can incorporate that into the candidate's life. Find that pain point within the candidate, and then you might be able to have a trigger. Now, those kind of channels aren't the only ones that you should be focusing on. Instead of having that reactive approach, a lot of times in recruiting, we, as recruiters, or you might be out there as a small business owner, juggling many different hats. I'm an HR manager for a company the size of 150 people. There's a lot of different hats that I wear. So instead of being reactive, you have to think of it being proactive in recruiting. And not every time do we wear that recruiting hat, but the more that you put on that recruiting hat, the better you are going to be down the road. So you need to be proactive in today's world, very mobile. It's all about making those connections so that you can be able to fill those hard-to-fill positions. So always trying to remember to have a bench of candidates. Proactively source for talent, build a talent pipeline for prospects, engage your right fit candidates, and leverage your talent community. For myself, not to pump myself up, but I've established a great relationship within the technical arborist community. We currently have a nice bench of climbing arborists that would be available for us to secure their services for employability with us at almost any moment's notice. So establishing a foothold into your community and keeping people on a bench and being aware of open positions, keeping people aware of what your company's value proposition is extremely important. Why network with people in your industry? Here are some stats. A referral generates 80% more results than a cold call. 75% of people get their jobs through networking. Up to 80% of jobs are not advertised. Here's some things about the reasons why you want to network. You establishing goals. What is your networking mission? Analyzing the kinds of help you will need in achieving your goals. Analyzing and developing your people skills. Building and cultivating your networks accordingly. And then there's layers of separation or layers of networking. Now, Peter, who is working the webinar here, he found his position within Rainbow through his brother, who was our former IT manager here. I found my position through a headhunter. And so those are layers of separation. You have to be able to pick apart that onion, if you will, and be able to look at your different layers in order to make a contact that might be available to you for your pipeline. Think of your level 1 contacts as like neighbors, former co-workers, friends of your parents and relatives, professional associations, ISA. So on the bottom right, you'll see kind of like a networking market, what that looks like. You have you as that main contact, and then your level 1 contacts equals 5. Then your second level of contacts is going to be 20. Then your third level of contacts would be 60. So you build out from there, and that's the reach that you are playing with when you network. Networking log and document quickly after each contact. So again, if you run across a great person that you ultimately would like to hire or see as a great fit for your company, it could be at like the ISA conventions that you go to, put down that individual's name, a little bit about their contact information, their occupation, the company that they work for, maybe some outstanding points about your conversation. Even when you're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, if you have a good contact in there that you know from a professional organization, put in their information. For example, for myself, I made a connection with a professor at Michigan Tech University. My companies never went to Michigan Tech. We never really looked that far away from a geographical standpoint. But I made a connection with this professor from Michigan Tech. He and I had a conversation for a half hour talking about the benefits of Rainbow, what kind of positions that we had open or would have open for summer opportunities or full-time opportunities. And I was able to secure 2 people for our summer positions who are from Michigan Tech. I also secured 1 person for a full-time opportunity for our utility division from this university. So establishing those relationships doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be connected with you physically in your region. They can be essentially a click away from across the region, and that individual could be valuable in your recruiting toolbox. And then I put up here a week 1 goal: add 5-10 people to your network. Think of this as like that couch to 5K that you hear about. If you're not an active individual and all of a sudden you want to do a 5K run, you're not all of a sudden going to do a 3.2 mile run. You have to build up to that 3.2 mile run. You have to start out maybe doing a 1/4 mile, work your way up to a mile, work your way up to 2 miles, work your way up to 3 miles, and be able to progress. That's what you're doing with your network. Add a few people at a time, a few different layers, and more than likely you will be successful in those hard to fill positions. Where can you start? Well, we have Boolean sourcing, we have job board sourcing, and social sourcing. Try saying all those S's in a row. Boolean sourcing. What's important about Boolean sourcing? In recruiting, talent is identified, is arguably the most critical step in recruiting life cycle. You can engage, recruit, acquire, and hire and develop talent if you haven't identified the top talent in the first place. Boolean sourcing enables you to find candidates' information from all over the web, including resumes, cover letters that are stored within personal websites, job boards, and social media platforms by using a unique set of search commands. So you can use the OR command. OR returns search contains at least one of your specified keywords or phrases. So in there, for example, programmer or developer or engineer would produce results containing one of these terms, but not necessarily all of them. And then you have quotations. Example, senior manager would return pages containing either keywords, but senior manager would only return pages containing the exact phrase. And so I did a screenshot from Indeed. I don't know if many of you out there have used Indeed, but it's a great way to find candidates and also post positions. So in the area or section what, I put in account manager, not sales manager. I was able to pull up individuals that are currently active who are looking for account manager positions, not sales manager positions, because sales managers have a uniquely different skill set than account managers. Also, I did that for more tree-oriented or green industry-oriented. Put in lawn or turf or lawn care, and was able to pull up individuals with those specified information that I'm looking for. Then here's some other basic Boolean commands that you can use. Using the minus command, if you put in a keyword, pork beans would return pages with pork, but exclude any pages containing beans. And so I did that right here. Arborist, plant healthcare. I was able to pull up a person who's identified as a field foreman, not in plant healthcare. Job board sourcing, social sourcing. Social sourcing would be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Facebook sourcing, there's a graph that you can use. Also remember to, for me, I don't necessarily use Facebook as a recruiting tool. I think of it more as a social tool. So to communicate with friends, family, I don't necessarily look at it as a way to recruit. But certainly you can post positions out there, and remember, target your message again. You have a limited space. If you're going to use Facebook as a recruiting tool, don't put your full job description. Put the highlights, the keywords that you're looking for. Twitter, it's a great resource. Remember, with Twitter, you have 140 characters to use, so don't beat around the bush as a recruiter. I think that's almost common knowledge. You can't beat around the bush with candidates. Get to the point. I think in today's world, it's very important to express what you're looking for and what you're wanting, and then allowing that individual to be able to pick up and decide for themselves where they want to go and take their career. LinkedIn, love LinkedIn. Sourced quite a few candidates so far for Rainbow through LinkedIn. If you do not know what it is, what LinkedIn is, it's a professional site that contains individuals all over the world, and those are people in the industry. Think of the tree industry. For example, I did a search, pulled up arborists, pulled up close to 11,000 arborists across the country. This is another great way to build your bench or network with people in the industry. If you do not have a LinkedIn profile, I recommend doing so. It's free. Again, what it will do is broaden your reach, broaden your brand, allow you to connect with arborists across the country, and then if you have a position in Ohio, you're able to connect with people in the industry in Ohio, as opposed to putting out advertisements on national job boards, such as Indeed that I showed, or Monster, Career Builder, or even ISA. This is directly geared towards professionals in the industry that you're looking for. Forget waiting around for your applicants. Use 3 basic sourcing techniques to find your candidates. So there's a pipeline in sourcing of candidates. Measure, prepare, implement. There's your sourcing plan. Prepare, identify the traits that you're looking for. Research candidates. determine sourcing sites, develop the keyword search strings that you want to use, forecast to anticipate headcount, implement, make the calls. Again, going back to the basics, you can't be afraid to pick up the phone when you see a good candidate on LinkedIn. Typically, people list their phone numbers, their email. Make a call, make a connection. If you're a sales pro out there in the tree industry, our consulting arborists make calls. They're not afraid to make those calls. If you're searching for a candidate, you have to make the calls. Build a candidate relationship. Send candidate summary to your hiring manager. Stay on plan. Typically, a recruiting cycle for a position is roughly 30 to 45 days. That hiring manager that you're filling that position for more than likely needed that position filled a month to 2 weeks prior to that hiring manager even going to you as the recruiter. Measure A and B contacts, number of candidates presented, and hiring manager feedback. Interview questions. Gauge the candidate's level of self-awareness. Look for compatibility, not just likability. Assess the candidate's desire factor. Assess your role in the interview. So as a recruiter, you know, when you're doing that screen, you're assessing that candidate's self-awareness. You're assessing that candidate's compatibility to your company's values. You're assessing that candidate's desire to make that move. Also in recruiting, there's a gut factor too, and if your gut says something, you might want to listen to that gut. Also, it's not just filling the position. Again, going back to bad hires cost a company money, cost a company a lot of money. So finding that right fit should avoid some of those headaches. Then ultimately you have acceptable and unacceptable questions. So acceptable, you know, what are the hours, days you want to work? Don't ask how many children you have. What's your religion? Have you ever worked under a different name? You can ask that. And then also you can ask questions. You know, and do you ever think that it's important to maybe tell a white lie? Because at work, you know, you don't necessarily want to have that as being what you're looking for. So targeting your message and your questions certainly will be able to pick that onion again apart and be able to find that right fit for you. Does anybody have any questions at this time? Thank you. If you have additional questions, we can certainly provide those answers to you at the end, and you can contact me directly at treecarescience.com. Again, my number is 952-252-0533.